What's going on, guys? So I'm doing this video. There's probably going to be either like two types of people that are going to watch this. The first type is going to be people who are like genuinely looking for advice if you should buy a Jeep Wrangler as your first vehicle. And then the other type of people, they're just normal people who just, I don't know, they saw the thumbnail and they said, hey, I want to see what this person thinks. I just want to say this is just my personal opinion. I mean, honestly, if you really want to buy a Jeep Wrangler as your first vehicle, if you do or if you don't, that's really up to you. But this is just my 2 cents. So, I don't know, take it with a little grain of salt. Like I said, this is just my personal opinion. And also, if you're new to the channel, my name is Jeffrey and I do Jeep Wrangler related videos. So yeah, check out my channel. I've done a ton of videos on like a lot of topics, from like stuff that mostly like beginners, if you know you don't know how to even like latch your like soft top, or like should you get a soft top or hard top, something like that. I've done a ton of videos on this type of stuff in the past, so check out my channel. You'll see a different catalog of different videos. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Honestly, I'm gonna say buying a Jeep Wrangler as your first vehicle, I think that you probably shouldn't, and here's my reasoning. Now, I do want to say I think Jeep Wranglers are beautiful vehicles. I mean, you know, for me, it's been my dream vehicle for at least, you know, since I was like, I think like 15. Yeah, like when I was 15, I wanted a Jeep Wrangler so badly because, you know, obviously they're pretty cool. You can take off the doors, take off the roof. They're unlike any other vehicle that's really out there. Looking back though, I'm happy that I didn't get one as my first vehicle. Strictly because, especially nowadays, especially if you're looking to get a unlimited version, so that's the 4-door, if you guys don't know. If you're looking to get an unlimited, I would say the one thing people don't really, you know, take into consideration is that it still is kind of a large SUV. And when you're first starting to like learn how to drive and you're like a beginner, let's face it, your skills aren't necessarily the greatest. So it is kind of hard to like maneuver and like park and just, you know, just kind of handle the vehicle, for lack of a better term. You know, that's not saying that this is the biggest vehicle out there, because obviously there are much bigger vehicles. You got people driving, you know, F-250 Super Duties, stuff like that. So I'm not saying this is like that large, but this is considerably a lot larger than what you would think. You know, if you're getting like a little 2-door Wrangler, you know, it's definitely a lot smaller, a little more compact. So, you know, that's definitely going to help you out in that category. But driving the 4-door version, especially for like your first vehicle and you're not really used to like staying in your lane, or like parking, parallel parking, or if you have to drive inside the city a lot and like, you know, there's tight parking and stuff like that, this could be a little bit, I don't know, maybe not overwhelming, but it could be a little bit intimidating for novice when they're first learning how to drive. And just for comparison's sake, I want to show you guys when I say how large a Jeep Wrangler is. So this is my Jeep Wrangler. As you can tell, it's slightly lifted up because we have the bigger tires on. This is my fiance's Compass. You still get that SUV look, but it's a lot smaller and a lot more manageable too when you're driving this thing. This handles a lot better than my car. And then like the second reason why I would say this probably isn't the best vehicle when you first start off is for your highway driving. Jeep Wranglers are not the most nimble thing out there in the world, which is kind of apparent. You know, they have the aerodynamics of a brick essentially. And I'm not talking, you know, bad about Jeep Wranglers. Like I said, I love them. Obviously, I'm driving one. This is my daily driver. I drive on the highway every day to work. You know, actually, I drive a pretty long distance. That can be a little bit intimidating as well. Strictly speaking, just because they don't handle the best when you're on the highway. When it's windy out, this thing, it rocks inside the wind, especially if you know, get it, you know, lifted up or bigger wheels, like mine. It does become a little bit harder to drive on the highway. And when you're first learning how to drive and you're really starting to get confidence, like driving on the highway, mixing any type of like unknown factor in with it, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best thing to do. If you can avoid it, I would at least, like, you know, get at least some experience driving on the highway before you jump into something that's a little bit bigger, you know, a little bit higher up. Cause yeah, when it gets windy out, this thing completely rocks in the wind. Like there's honestly been times where I'm coming home from work and if it's like super windy, sometimes I'm just like, I just don't feel like fighting with the vehicle just to stay straight. I'll just get off the highway, like honestly. I mean, but that's only in like rare occasions when it's like super windy. But it does happen though. And then really the third thing, which is kind of going along with the second thing, is trying to make any type of emergency maneuvers. Like I said before, Jeep Wranglers are not the most nimble thing out there in the world, which I've said before. Trying to make an emergency maneuver, I know especially when you're first learning how to drive, a lot of times, if there, let's say you're driving down the road and something, like if there's like a deer or like another car or something, a lot of times what people will try to do, especially when you're first learning how to drive, is they oversteer. You jerk the steering wheel either like super hard inside one direction or inside the other direction, trying to avoid an obstacle. Inside of a Jeep, if you do that at like a high speed, that's a bad idea to do. Generally speaking, when you're going in one direction, you don't want to make super fast maneuvers. But obviously when you get some time driving, you learn how to not just completely just oversteer and just like jerk the car too far over, and then you try to correct it, and then you try to jerk really hard back in the other direction. And that's basically you're gonna make yourself flip over. And Jeeps, they do have a really high flip over rate, but if there's like a obstacle in the road, you have to really be precise and just kind of maneuver around it without completely setting yourself up to fail or to crash. So I mean, just with that in mind, I would steer away from younger drivers. Really having this as your first vehicle. Now, to play devil's advocate, I will say, I mean, it's the same thing even for motorcycles. A lot of people say start off on 250s. Granted though, there's been a ton of people who started learning on 600s. Some people, they're totally fine with it. Some people say, hey, I started off on a liter bike. So there's obviously people that are going to say like, well, I didn't do that. I just started, head first into it, and I was totally fine. That's totally fine if that's you. Me, when I started learning motorcycles, I started off on a 250, and then after that, I graduated to a 600, and then just moved up from there. I think honestly for cars, it should be the same type of category. I mean, honestly, most times I would really start off with like a normal, like basic economy car, just something that gets you from point A to point B, that's safe, reliable, and it can handle at least pretty well. That goes along with probably I personally would not start off as as like my first car with like a 400 horsepower like 5.0 Mustang or something like that. Generally speaking, because when you're first learning how to drive, you have to kind of like master kind of the basics before you can kind of like graduate up and like go into more of the advanced stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of my basic thoughts. I would typically say I wouldn't start off with it as your first vehicle, but some people do. They're fine with it, but just know that there's always going to be a downside to anything. But yeah, guys, so let me know in the comment section, did you start off driving a Jeep Wrangler as your first vehicle? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to disagree with me. They're going to say, they were totally fine. And that's totally fine. But let me know in the comment section, though, exactly why you started off with a Jeep Wrangler as your first vehicle. And, and also, let me know in the comment section, what was your first vehicle? I'm actually really curious to know what a lot of people's first vehicles were. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, like always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, give it a like. Check out my other videos. I've done a ton of other videos on Jeep Wrangler related content, vlogs, car stuff, motorcycle stuff. So if you like that type of stuff, check out my channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.